Hi again, everyone. So last time we started with the Industrial Revolution begins, and this time we are going to start off with technology. So we talked about in the last video, why Great Britain, why England was the place of all places that, was able to facilitate the spread of industry. In this video, we're going to talk and dive into the technologies, how technology of this time shaped economic production and just continues to shape it. And also how the development of these machines made it possible to take advantage of existing and also newly discovered resources as a form of energy. And it is this reliance, specifically what would become on fossil fuels, that would revolutionize the way humans lived and interacted with one another. And then, of course, we cannot talk about technology without talking about the ease of transportation. So let's dig into it. Throughout all of your social studies learning, you have learned about at least one, if not all of these. And these are just different iterations of how to make yarn. From the cotton gin that made it possible to get cotton off of the plant without having to have humans damage their hands from it, all the way up to how to spin it into this tiny thread that makes cloth here and blankets and so on and so forth. So during the Industrial Revolution, what kind of spurred and continued to fuel industrialization is that industry really heavily relied upon water, wood, and then human or animal labor. Well, when humans started to figure out that you could take this black rock known as coal and start to burn it for energy, they were able to harness the energy of coal and natural gases to replace them. It made much more powerful energy, and you also took out the human factor in all of this. So this meant this energy, the more energy that they got from coal, meant they could produce more, which means they could output more. And because Britain was sitting quite pretty on a coal field, they were able to increase their output 50-fold. That means 50 times the amount of produce or products they were putting out in 1750. They were doing that 50 times more in 1900 or by the 1900s. So this created an entire culture of innovation that meant that anything was possible. You take how much coal and oil is used today, we use it in just about every single form. If you take a barrel of crude oil, that's how you make plastics, right? Plastic is made from byproducts of refining crude oil down to that substance that we put in cars and lawnmowers and use for just about everything. So the new technology not only gave us better sources of energy, they also gave us more powerful machines. And one of those machines was the steam powered engine. So the steam powered engine. And that is because they harnessed coal to be able to heat the water that produced the steam. Oh my gosh, game changer. They also found out that coal could be refined and used in the production of iron. This is where you get, coal ash and coke ovens. I actually grew up on the side of a mountain in Virginia. That's not that far away from coke ovens. It's still in operation today, and it's an instrumental part in making steel. So iron would end up becoming an important part of these steam engines. Dun, dun, dun. Like everything starts to become cyclical. Iron because it started to become an instrumental part because they figured out how to make, use coal to make iron and steel better. Iron became a necessity to create better structures like bridges and buildings. Your school building made of concrete and iron. If you live in an apartment or a townhouse, it's probably made out of some sort of iron or steel beams. Just saying. So, as I said, Britain was sitting pretty. So you can tell here, these red and yellow dots, these were all of the coal fields that were found in Britain during this time. There was, as you see here, you're looking at the graph, there is a decline in how much firewood is actually used. And as we get closer to more modern day, these start to change yet again because coal boomed. But there's something that happened during this time period, or a little after actually, that caused coal to be used dramatically less, specifically in England. And we'll talk about that. So one of the things that you should know is that working in coal mines is extremely dangerous and very difficult. Oftentimes, they were sending people into spaces as small as the wagon itself. So they relied heavily on child labor because they were small and they could get in and out better than an adult male. Now, what you should know is that they are literally digging either down or into rock. And if rock becomes unstable, it falls. So you're talking about kids potentially dying in coal mines. What? Not only that, it was also dangerous for adults, but it just, puts a little extra something on for child labor. Now, it's also, we know nowadays, that breathing in coal dust can damage the lungs. It can actually turn your lungs black and do irreparable damage. So because of all of the dangerous working conditions, this actually led to a need for workers' rights. Foreshadowing, like nobody's business. So these are some videos that are illustrating, factories and machines and how these innovations operated, right? So as a result of all of this, and these new methods and, this yearning for new, right, bigger and better, there was a second industrial revolution that came with it. This led to new methods to produce steel and chemicals and electricity. And this happened in the second half of the 19th century. This is often where we start to see, so you start in Britain and it spreads out. And it hits the United States right around the end of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th century. This is when we see the big boom, right? The 10s and 20s of the early 20th century. But right before this, there's this huge boom that comes along to spur even bigger innovations. So historians actually label this as the second industrial revolution because there was this even bigger growth of industries and textiles. And that is because they're expanded. They found new uses to bring about electricity and petroleum and steel. Okay, watch this video on electricity because we will talk more about electricity and Nikola Tesla and just all of this fantasticalness when I see you in class next. Bye, everyone.